Hello there! Even though he's one of the most successful and influential live-action filmmakers of all time, believe it or not, there was a brief time when Steven Spielberg was in charge of an animation studio. I mean, really brief. Like, they only made 3 animated features and that was it. Following the massive success of An American Tail, The Land Before Time, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, it makes sense that he would go from being a producer to being the head of an animation studio, a la John Lasseter and Walt Disney. I would even go so far as to say that during the 80s, he was the modern-day equivalent to Walt Disney. However, why didn't Amblimation become one of the major forces in animation? Let's take a look. The studio was set up in London, where Richard Williams had directed the animation for Roger Rabbit. The first feature produced at Amblimation was the sequel, An American Tail, Fievel Goes West, not directed by Don Bluth. Instead, it was directed by Simon Wells, who would direct all the studio's features, and former Disney animator Phil Niblink. I thought it was a worthy follow-up to Bluth's film, following up the story and characters nicely. Fievel's a likable protagonist, and I liked how Tiger was expanded upon here. Also leave it to John Cleese to make a strong villain, and James Stewart brings an authentic old sheriff vibe. The animation is pretty fantastic and showed the studio's promise early on. The western landscape is incredibly well drawn and is aided by James Horner's great score. The western genre is one I would like to see explored more often in animation, and Fievel Goes West does a nice job of tackling it. It's definitely a worthy follow-up to the first film. Unfortunately, it had the rotten luck of opening opposite a little film called Beauty and the Beast, and it got kind of swept under the rug, though it did decently internationally.
With the voice talents of Dom DeLuise,
Cat got your tongue?
Amy Irving,
Anything you say, pussy poo.
You place your last hand, Shula.
John Lovitz,
I got 7 more!
John Cleese,
Let the saliva flow!
and Jimmy Stewart.
You want to intimidate someone, give them a lazy eye.
Coming Thanksgiving from Steven Spielberg, An American Tail, Fievel Goes West.
Animation's next production actually has an interesting connection with Disney. Following the success of The Little Mermaid, directors John Musker and Ron Clements stated an interest in directing a film adaptation of the book We're Back, a Dinosaur Story, only to be told that Spielberg owned the rights and wanted to produce his own animated version of it. And to be honest, I think Clements and Musker would have done a much better job. In addition to Wells and Niblink returning to the director's chair, We're Back was also helmed by Dick and Ralph Zondak, who would go on to make a much better Dinosaur picture. Despite having 4 directors, the whole film is a mess with a story that's all over the place and characters I care nothing about. Maybe it's due to the short 1-hour running time, but even Dumbo managed to pack plenty of character and story into that length. While these dinosaurs, not to mention the 2 child characters, juggle around, the film finds little time to develop them. The humor never quite hits for me, and the heart and darker moments feel cobbled together and manufactured. The casting choice is also odd. While Yeardley Smith is not a bad choice to voice a young girl, it's hard not to picture Lisa Simpson whenever she speaks. Then there's the stunt casting of choosing 2 non-actors with recognizable voices. Aside from name recognition, I see little point in hiring Walter Cronkite and Julia Child to voice the 2 scientists who ate the dinosaurs. Finally, we come to the major irony of the film's message. That same year, Spielberg released Jurassic Park, which was also about the wonderment of dinosaurs. However, it also taught that one shouldn't tamper with natural selection for one's amusement. Dr. New Eyes does precisely that in We're Back, and there are little consequences. Overall, We're Back, a Dinosaur Story is a film with potential, but the pieces just didn't come together in a satisfying way, and audiences agreed as it did poorly at the box office.
Just imagine how I must feel. Human beings, what a meal. Roll back the rock to the dawn of time and sing this song with me.
Hey, what do you know? There's another fella just like me.
Good to see somebody of a similar persuasion, if you know what I mean. Put her there.
Roll back the rock to the dawn of time and sing this song with me.
The third Amblimation feature was Balto, inspired by the true story of a Siberian husky who transported medicine to sick children in Alaska. Directed solely by Simon Wells, Balto is not a bad film, but I do find it to be on the generic side. It's the typical story of a hero who beats the odds, defeats the villain, and gets the girl, and not much more than that. It's a nice little family film that isn't a bad sit-down if it passes on television. The most interesting aspect of the production is that Brendan Fraser originally recorded dialogue for the villain Steele, but was replaced by Jim Cummings, who does his usual excellent work. However, Fraser would later voice the Tasmanian Devil in Looney Tunes Back in Action, even though Cummings typically does his voice.
Universal Pictures and Amblin Entertainment invite you to join Steel.
Touch that box, and I'll tear you apart.
Caltag and Star.
Hey, this is gonna be good.
Muck and Luck.
Well, of course we were. We were in the water. We were moving. We were swimming.
And Boris.
Wow! I was so scared. I got equal bumps.
On an incredible adventure into the heart of a hero.
Not dog, not wolf. You're a hero.
Balto.
Following the failure of Balto, Amblimation closed down and an animated version of the musical Cats was cancelled. On the positive side, almost all of the animation team went on to work at DreamWorks Animation in Glendale. Simon Wells would even become a prominent storyboard artist at the studio and even directed The Prince of Egypt. It was an interesting period of time in the history of Steven Spielberg's career, and while the films were hit or miss, it's still hard to deny the talent of the artists who worked on them. See you next time.
Turn back the clock. Roll back the rock to the dawn of time and sing this song with me. Turn back the clock, baby, you can see why the 20th century appeals to me. So much to learn and so much to do, and a zillion wonderful things to chew. Roll back the rock. Roll back the rock. Turn back the clock. Turn back the clock. Roll back the rock to the dawn of time and sing this song.